talk us through like the photo journal. I know you mentioned you were brought into a room. Hopefully there was lighting in that room and it wasn't a dark room. And you're like,
no, what I mean by being brought into the room was I was at the game shooting a completely different project.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I had been hired. I was coming, and basically I was hired to shoot just like the ambiance of the games.
Okay.
Because it was on the. So if you're not really aware, CrossFit Games has its own kind of media creation team.
Yeah.
And then CrossFit.com, so what they call the black page or whatever, which is basically like the CrossFit HQ entity.
Yeah.
They have their own stuff that they usually curate. And of course they talk and they'll share stuff all the time. But a lot of times, especially at the CrossFit Games back then, it was very separate goals, right? CrossFit Games team, they're just telling a story of who's winning, the competition stuff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
The CrossFit.com team was the outside stuff, right? The what do you call it? The spectator workout area, seminar staff that are running the little, the vendors,
the community
like
stuff,
everything that happens essentially outside the community or the competition floor was what our goal was to tell that story.
Yeah, okay.
So different vibe of how you're trying to shoot. So I was hired to do that job.
Yeah.
So I was there and we were shooting some of the competition, but it was basically like a different story angle, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How does the crowd react to whatever's
happening?
So it was like crowd focused, there was some shooting the stuff, but I think it was like 2 or 3 days in, I just get pulled aside by Matt Bishel, who was my boss basically.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, sit here for a second. And I was like, I thought I was in trouble. I'm not kidding.
Right? That's where my
I
head
am
goes,
not
dude.
kidding.
That's where my head goes.
I thought, because like he didn't say anything else.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, dude, just come into the media office and just sit right there. And I was like, okay. And I was like, okay. And this is the media.
that would freak me
This
out.
is the media office where everyone's walking in and out, right?
Yeah.
You got people coming in, dumping cards. You got video guys doing their edits. Like everything's going on around me. So I feel like, like those time-lapse videos and that person sitting on the chair. Everything is going. And I'm not like, I'm supposed to be out shooting somewhere.
Yeah,
like I'm on assignment, but I'm just sitting in the chair.
You're being told to stop.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking I'm in trouble. I'm thinking like I did something out on the floor and they're just like pissed about it. And they're like trying to decide if I'm getting kicked out.
He pushed the boundary.
Yeah. Because like I had heard a million stories about like if you screw up and Dave finds out, like you're gone. Like, he'll kick you out.
Yeah.
And so I'm processing everything in my head of what's the worst case scenario, and I'm just like sweating bullets. And not only did he sit me in that chair and leave me, but it was like a long time. It was almost an hour-ish where I'm just sitting there waiting to be told.
Hour.
Right. And
5 minutes would have seemed like an hour. I couldn't even imagine.
And maybe I'm even like, maybe I'm embellishing because in my mind it felt like an hour.
That's fine.
But
Honestly, that's
It was 3.5
I will it was actually 30 seconds, but it felt like an hour. But I realistically remember sitting there for a longer time period than would have been prudent for like a normal situation, or like, hey, we just want you to do something else. So then he comes back in and he's like, hey, walk with me. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, hey, I'm switching your assignment. And while we're walking from the media office to Dave's war room, he's literally telling me, hey, they're doing this thing called the Photo Journal. Basically, it's like a behind the scenes look. There's a girl named Christine. She writes all the posts and it's all posted on Dave's page and they're collaborating. And I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do? And he's like, you're just supposed to follow along and get whatever she needs. And that was the only instruction I had while we're walking from the media room to Dave's war room.
Open-ended.
Right. So I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea who these people are. Like I know who Dave was. I don't know any of his staff. I don't know who Christine is.
Yeah.
So we get to that point. The war room is open and they're all in there talking about some event. And I'm standing on the doorway. I don't know what I'm doing. And Matt goes, all right, good luck. And he literally pushes my back into the room. And then he walks away. And I'm like...
I feel like Matt's really forceful.
Oh,
like,
no.
You sit down. He's pushing you.
No, Matt's great. I love Matt.
I've never met
him.
him.
And the thing is, Matt is the type of person, like we talked about before, like giving people that one chance.
Yeah.
Like Matt is great about that.
Yeah.
And so, to this day, I love Matt because he was always the one.
Threw you in the fire.
And the good thing about Matt too is every time I worked with him before, we would like leave an event and he would sit there and he would talk to me about what I was doing.
Yeah.
So he was giving me feedback. So we didn't really know each other that much. He wasn't like my best friend that I was like, taking, but he was my boss.
Yeah.
And he was always giving me good constructive feedback. Like, hey, I really liked how you looked at this image, but maybe you should think about it like this. And so it was always a way to push me while I was on site.
Yeah.
And so I definitely did kind of trust his vision and the way he looked at things. And so I wasn't afraid of what I was going to do. I just didn't feel like I could immediately do what they wanted me to do because I really didn't understand it.
Yeah.
So when he pushed me into the room, that was my introduction to Dave, to Christine, to the entire team. So I probably I literally was like,
Camera.
it was like, this is Eric, and this is the funny part. They're so busy. Right?
Yeah.
Dave has 6 million things going
Didn't
on.
even
in his head.
process it.
Right. So it was literally one of those things where they're like, hey, and then back to work. So I'm like, cool, that's about all I get. And so, we started walking, like Dave went to go do something else and we started walking, and Christine gave me like a 15-minute rundown of like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what I want you to do. Can you help me out? And so that first 2 days that we did that, it was just learning what was expected of me. How she wanted me to look at things, what I needed to be aware of, like the things that and also the timeline of deliverables. Because the way that they were shooting that was as a real time as possible. So I went from being on a team where I could shoot and just enjoy life and give my card to the editing team and whatever, to I had to shoot whatever she was hoping to write about and try to get something that was amazing or different, and then literally pull it off my camera, put it in my phone, edit it, give it to her so she could post within 30 minutes.
So did you have to anticipate what she wanted, or was
So that's what's crazy. The original relationship was a lot of like, I'm just trying to get as much feedback from her as possible. Because I didn't want to like let her down.
Yes.
Eventually, as we started to learn each other and we started to trust each other, and then at the end of the day, we would start talking about like, okay, this is what's happening. Maybe there's some storylines we can think about ahead of time.
Yeah.
So then it was a much more creative collaboration of, all right, these are some stories we want to think about writing. How is the best way that we can show that off? And so then it became a give and take of like, sometimes it would be, I have this really cool shot. How do we create a story around that? Or does it make sense? Mm-hmm. Or vice versa, we saw something happen.
Let's find a shot.
I just had to find a really good shot that said what she wanted to say.
Okay.
So it was definitely a stressful situation of, sometimes I had no idea what she wanted to talk about. Right. And it's even funny because when we first started, there's anywhere from 10 to 20 people working out at the same time.
Yeah.
And so sometimes she'd be like, all right, I want you to focus on lane 2 because this is the story I want to write.
Yeah.
But then somewhere in the middle of that workout, lane 7 does something crazy, the crowd goes crazy, and she'd be like, hey, did you get any photos of that? And I'm like, no, you told me to focus on number 2.
Man, that's stressful.
Right. So what I learned was, okay,
like this.
Yes. So, a lot of times as media people, we're always told like, hey, don't overshoot, like don't spray and pray, whatever.
Yeah.
But realistically, in that environment, I had to start setting myself up for the inevitable issue that was going to be, there might be a story that happened that we weren't focused on,
but we want
and I have to have something.
Yeah.
So what I would end up doing is telling myself, I am the only one that exists, and I have to capture something of everybody.
Okay.
So what I would do oftentimes is I would spend the first round of something getting a decent shot of everybody person doing something. And most of the time it was, is there a unique element to this workout? And Dave's great with that, right? Like a new object or, the burpees over the hay bale with the cheese curd. So I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna have a shot per person, it needs to be doing the thing that makes sense for that workout.
Yeah.
So once I knew I had that, then it's like either following who's winning or following who might be doing or struggling. Or sometimes I'll literally get a message on my watch that says, hey, number, whatever, lane something. And so then I will go over and try to get something. So it really is it was a game changer for how I approached how I was shooting, knowing that at any given moment, she might have a new thought pop in her head. And I'm like, okay, I have to have something that matches that. And it's not perfect. Sometimes we're definitely like, oh, what do we got? It's like, it's not the best photo, but it works. And sometimes, and this is one of those humble things. Sometimes whatever I had was not going to work. And so what we would do in that situation, because she was very particular about like, I don't want to just post a photo to post a photo. I want to post the best thing that helps tell the story. Mm-hmm. So there's been plenty of times, if you go back and look at the photo journal, where the first photo is actually credited to somebody else. Yeah. Because usually she'd be like, hey, we just missed it. I missed it. I wasn't in the right spot, whatever. Yeah. But somebody on the CrossFit Games team does have a good image. And so we would basically use that as a collaboration concept and be like, hey, can we use that shot for this post? Because it just tells the story better. Sure. Yeah. And so as a photographer going like, well, that makes me feel like crap, right? Like, and you have to learn to be like, look, this is an entire team concept.
Yeah.
Right? Our goal is to try to make the games and make these individuals and tell their stories
Compelling,
be
yeah.
the biggest and a most amazing version of it as possible.
Yeah.
So if I'm just always over here like, oh, they didn't pick my image
Yeah.
and I feel so bad about it, even though it's my job,
Yeah.
I just had to really get over that really
For
quickly.
sure.
And a couple of times I was like, oh, that sucks. Like, I obviously didn't get the good one.
Yeah.
But in a way, growth mindset again, right?
Yeah.
It's a challenge to be like, hey, as much as possible, I want to be the one that produces
Always
the
getting
image.
the best image.
That is
yeah.
the one that we're
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
use.
yeah.
And of course, it's not going to happen all the time.
Yeah. It's not
But
perfect.
but it is.
Yeah.
It makes you hungry. It makes you focus and work hard to know that, like, if I don't get the right shot,
Yeah.
we're gonna go with something else. And I don't want that to happen. But also the humility of being like, hey, dude, I didn't get the best shot. And that
Yeah.
one's way better, and it's okay.
Yes.
It's not gonna hurt me or hurt my feelings or take my job away from me.
Yeah.
It's just, hey, they got a better shot, and it tells the story better.
For
It's
sure.
also a really mature outlook.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know, because
and at first you're just like, I want to be really hurt, you know. But then you just realize.
Sometimes you want to solve.
Right. You know, but and I think in that environment, it's so fast paced. You know, a lot of times people on other teams, because there's multiple photographers and
Oh,
videos,
yeah.
it's like, hey, you're going to go shoot 2 heats and you're going to take a break.
Yeah.
Literally from the time Dave is awake until the time Dave goes to bed, we are with
Working,
him or
yeah,
doing something.
Yeah.
So it is the longest job and the most time intensive job I've ever had.
Yeah.
Also the funnest because I get access to things that a lot of people never get access
For sure.
to. But realistically, it is just, you know, having a mindset of like, I have to be hungry. I can't have an hour where I'm like, I just don't really care about this one.
Yeah.
I have to always be paying attention.
You're on.
But you also just are like, this is still part of a team goal. The team goal is to tell the best story possible.
For sure.
And as long as I'm focused on that, whoever's image gets used, no big deal.
Yeah.
Because the team itself and the community itself
It's winning.
wins.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about that.